Perhaps you started this day carrying a weight that no one around you can see. On the outside you smile, answer that everything is fine, and continue fulfilling your obligations. But inside, there is an ancient weariness, an affliction that seems to have no end, a feeling that you have been fighting alone for too long. And I need to tell you something right at the beginning, before any other word. You are not alone, and you never have been. There is a presence that walks by your side, even when you do not notice. And it is exactly about this presence that we are going to talk today. Archangel Michael, throughout all spiritual tradition, has always been recognized as the one who stands before that which threatens us, not as a figure of terror, but as a symbol of courage, of support, of a strength that comes from God to sustain the heart of those who are about to give up. And if you arrived at this video today, among so many others you could have chosen, perhaps it is a good moment to stop, take a deep breath, and simply allow your faith to be rekindled. Because the truth is that adult life, especially after 35, 40 years of age, keeps placing layers and more layers of responsibility upon our shoulders. The bill that arrives at the end of the month and seems larger than the salary, the longing for a child who grew up and went to live their life far away, the worry about the health of a father or a mother who is aging, the relationship that has grown cold, or the loneliness of those still waiting for true love. These are real weights, and I will not pretend here that they do not exist or that a pretty word makes everything disappear. That is not how it works. What I want to show you is different. I want to show you that there is a way to carry these weights without breaking beneath them, and that way involves something that many people have forgotten: trust. The genuine trust that you are cared for, that there is a purpose in what you live, and that your faith is not an illusion but the most solid thing you possess. Think with me for a moment. How many times in your life have you gone through a situation that seemed impossible, without a way out, without solid ground, and yet you made it through? How many times have you looked back and realized that from somewhere came the strength for you to keep standing? We tend to call this luck, coincidence, stubbornness. But what if there was something more? And what if, in each of those crossings, you had been supported by a hand you could not see? The tradition that speaks of Archangel Michael describes exactly this: a presence that positions itself before our internal battles, our doubts, our fears, and reminds us of who we really are. Beloved children, people with purpose, people who were not placed on this earth to just survive, but to live with dignity, with peace and with hope. And this is where I need to ask you an honest question. How long has it been since you allowed yourself to feel this peace? How long has it been since you stopped, even if just for 5 minutes, to simply surrender your weight and rest? Because faith is not just believing that something good will happen. Faith is, above all, trusting that you are held even when everything seems to collapse. It was thinking exactly of you, who feel this weariness and at the same time this hunger for something deeper, that I prepared material to accompany you on this walk. That is why I prepared the powerful digital book for you, a simple and direct guide on how to strengthen your trust in God in your daily life, even amidst the bills, the worries, and the nights when sleep does not come. It is not a magic formula, and I will not promise you instant miracles. It is a journey companion, written with care for those who need to relearn how to trust. The link is right in the description of this video and also pinned at the top of the comments for you to access when your heart is ready. No rush, no guilt, just an invitation. And if this first part has already touched something inside you, leave a simple amen down below, as if to say, I also want to rekindle my faith. Now let me show you something that few people stop to consider. When we speak of Archangel Michael as the one who protects, we are not speaking of a protection that comes only from the outside in. We are also speaking of a strength that awakens within you. Because the courage you need to face your days is already planted in your heart. It has just been buried by years of weariness, of disappointment, of promises that did not come true. Imagine a father who for months has not been able to sleep well because of debts. He lies down and his mind starts to race. How will I pay? What if I lose my job? What if there is not enough for my children? Fear takes over. And it is precisely at that moment, in the dark of the room, that he has a choice. He can continue feeding the dread, or he can do something different. He can breathe, he can surrender, he can say in silence, "I will not make it alone, but you are not alone." And when he does that, something changes. Not in the bills, not yet, but inside him. His heart slows down, his breathing deepens, and for the first time in a long time, he is able to sleep. This is not fantasy. There is even something that science observes about the human heart. The heart is not just a pump that pushes blood. It emits a field. It responds to our emotions. And when we live in a constant state of fear and anxiety, our whole body goes on alert, sleep disappears, health wears down. But when we cultivate gratitude, trust, and peace, this same heart calms down, and the entire body begins to restore itself. Spirituality and care for the body, deep down, walk together. The faith that calms the soul also calms the body. So when tradition says that Archangel Michael brings protection, perhaps part of that protection is exactly this: the ability to leave the state of panic and return to the state of trust, to trade the desperate struggle for serene surrender. And it is a trade that is within your reach today, right now, while you listen to me. Think of the mother who raises her children practically alone. She wakes up before everyone else, prepares breakfast, rushes to work, returns exhausted, and still needs to manage the house, the chores, the worries. Who takes care of her? Who holds her hand when she cries hidden in the bathroom so her children do not see? It is to this woman that today's message is also addressed. You who give yourself entirely for others, you are also cared for. You also have the right to rest, to support, to peace. And your strength, which seems infinite in the eyes of others, comes renewed precisely when you allow yourself to trust that you do not carry everything alone. There is an ancient wisdom that says that feeling is the key to everything. It is not enough to repeat words with your mouth if your heart remains locked in fear. What transforms our inner life is genuine feeling. It is starting to feel, truly, that you are supported, that you are loved, that there is a greater purpose in what you live. And when this feeling takes hold within you, it changes the way you go through your days. You start to act from trust and no longer from panic. I know this may seem too simple for problems that are so real and so big, but I ask you, what do you have to lose by trading fear for faith? Fear has never paid a bill. Anxiety has never cured anyone. Despair has never brought a solution. Serene trust, however, opens your mind to see paths that dread was hiding, opens your heart to receive the help that may be arriving, and returns to you the energy to keep fighting with dignity. And that is why I want to remind you again, with all care, of that material I prepared. That is why I prepared the powerful digital book for you. It was made to be read little by little in small moments of your day, like someone taking medicine for the soul in small doses. It is in the description and at the top of the comments. If something here is making sense to you, this may be the next step in your walk. And it costs almost nothing compared to everything it can return to you in peace. Decide calmly, but decide for your peace. You deserve this care. Now I want to go deeper with you, because there is a point that completely changes the way we live our faith. Most people treat prayer and spirituality as a request made from afar, like someone shouting to someone on the other side of an abyss in the hope of being heard. But true faith does not work like distance, it works like presence. God, in this deeper understanding, is not a distant figure who every now and then might decide to answer. He is the very life that pulses within you, the very love that makes you capable of loving, the very strength that lifts you up every morning. And Archangel Michael, within this image, is not someone who lives in an unreachable heaven. He represents this divine courage that is available to you at the exact instant you decide to trust. Not tomorrow, not when the problems end, not when life gets easier. Now, in the middle of the chaos, in the middle of the bills, in the middle of the longing. It is in the middle of the storm that this strength reveals itself, because it is exactly there that we need it most. Think of someone who is facing a difficult situation within their own family. Perhaps an old argument that does not resolve, a child who has drifted away, a marriage that is hanging by a thread. The pain of seeing your own home in conflict is one of the heaviest that exists, and often the person feels powerless because they cannot change the hearts of others, they cannot force anyone to reconcile. But there is something they can do, and it changes everything. They can change their own inner state. They can stop living that situation from fear and resentment and start living from the faith that restoration is possible. Because when one person in a house changes their own posture, when they start to radiate peace instead of tension, trust instead of demands, hope instead of bitterness, it spreads. The environment changes. Relationships start to breathe in a different way. It is not magic, it is real spiritual influence. A person at peace is capable of transforming the climate of an entire family. And this may be your mission within your home, to be that point of light that holds the faith while others are still lost in the dark. I have seen and heard so many accounts of ordinary people who lived exactly this. People who were on the verge of giving up on their marriage and who, upon rediscovering their own faith, also found the serenity to rebuild what seemed lost. Parents who were estranged from their children and who, by trading demands for silent prayer and trust, saw bridges rebuilt over time. People suffocated by debts who, upon leaving the panic, were able to think clearly, make agreements, find exits that despair was hiding. None of these stories are about instant miracles. All are about inner transformation that generates transformation in real life. And perhaps you are asking yourself, but where do I start? How do I manage to leave this state of fear in which I have lived for so long? The answer is simpler than it seems, and it happens mainly in 2 moments of the day. The first is right upon waking, even before picking up the phone, before letting the worries invade. In that instant, still in bed, you can consciously choose the tone of your day. You can take a deep breath 3 times and say from the bottom of your heart that you trust, that you are supported, that today you will not walk alone. The second moment, and perhaps the most powerful of all, is at night, just before sleeping. This is the moment when your mind is most open, most receptive, like soft soil ready to receive seeds. Everything you take into your sleep deepens within you during the night. Therefore, if you fall asleep every night reviewing your debts, your fears, your arguments, you are planting exactly that in your interior. But if you fall asleep in a state of gratitude, of trust, feeling as if your prayer had already been answered, feeling the peace of someone who knows they are cared for, you plant peace. And what is planted with persistence grows. This is one of the most important keys I can give you today. Persistence in feeling. It is no use trusting one day and despairing the other 6. Transformation comes to those who persist, to those who return, even after falling, and choose faith again and again and again. Life will test you. Days will come when everything will seem to conspire against your peace. And it is precisely on those days that your persistence will make all the difference. Persisting in trusting when it is easy has no merit at all. Persisting in trusting when it is difficult is what transforms a person entirely. And here I return to speak with you, with an open heart about that material I prepared with such care. That is why I prepared the powerful digital book for you. Inside it, I gathered in a simple and practical way these paths: how to start the day, how to end the night, how to persist in faith even when life gets tight, how to transform your home from your own inner peace. It is a guide for those who want to leave the cycle of fear and finally live with more lightness and trust. The link is in the description of the video and pinned at the top of the comments. Many people have already told me that small changes in these 2 moments of the day, the morning and the night, return to them nights of sleep that had been lost for years. I invite you to try, not as an obligation, but as a gift you give to yourself. You have taken care of so many people. How about now taking care of yourself too? There is still an aspect of this walk that almost no one comments on, and that I insist on sharing with you, because it can change the way you live your days. It is the power of silence. We live surrounded by noise, the noise of traffic, the noise of news, the noise of others' opinions, and especially the noise inside our own head, that internal dialogue that never stops, that reviews worries, that rehearses arguments, that anticipates tragedies that have not even happened. And amidst so much noise, it becomes difficult to hear the softest voice of all, which is the voice of peace, the voice of support, what many call the voice of God within us. Archangel Michael, in the oldest images, usually appears firm, serene, with a posture of someone who is not shaken by chaos. And perhaps this is what he comes to teach us, that true strength does not shout, it remains. That true courage does not despair, it quiets down. And that to find this firmness within us, we first need to learn to turn off the noise, even if just for a few minutes a day. A small moment of silence, in which you simply stop, close your eyes, breathe, and let your heart calm down. It is not wasted time. It is the best invested time that exists, because it is in it that your soul is replenished. And pay attention to your internal dialogue, because it shapes your life much more than you imagine. The words you repeat to yourself in silence throughout the day build your inner reality. If you spend the whole day saying to yourself, "I won't make it, nothing goes right for me, I am alone," you will feel the weight of these words on your back. But if you start, with kindness and persistence, to trade this dialogue for words of trust, "I am supported, I am capable, I do not walk alone," you start to rewrite the story you tell yourself. And the story we tell ourselves is, in the end, the story we live. I know that changing this internal dialogue does not happen overnight. It is years, sometimes decades, repeating the same phrases of fear and defeat. Do not blame yourself for that. Change is like learning anything new. It requires repetition, patience, and kindness toward yourself. Each time you notice the thought of defeat and gently replace it with a thought of trust, you are strengthening a new path within you. And over time, this new path becomes the natural one, the automatic one, the one that comes first. This is how a person truly transforms, not all at once but little by little with loving persistence. Think also of how gratitude has the power to turn the tide of our perception. When we are at rock bottom, the mind tends to see only what is missing, only what is wrong, only what hurts. It is natural. It is the survival instinct trying to protect us. But if we stay trapped only in that, we lose sight of everything we still have. And almost always, even on the most difficult days, there are still reasons for gratitude. The air you breathe, the person who still loves you, the plate of food that appeared, the strength that brought you here. Gratitude does not deny the problems, but it expands our vision so that we also see the blessings in the midst of them. And a grateful person is a person who has more strength to fight, because they fight from abundance and not from lack. I want you to understand one thing that I consider fundamental. Nothing I said here today serves to scare you, to threaten you, or to make you feel that something terrible will happen if you do not act. I do not believe in that kind of faith, the faith of fear. True faith is not born of terror, it is born of love. You do not need to fear to trust. You do not need to despair to seek God. On the contrary, it is when you approach out of love, out of a desire for peace, out of a will to live better, that your spirituality truly flourishes. So if at some point in your life someone taught you that God is someone to be feared, someone ready to punish, someone from whom you need to run, I gently invite you to rethink that. The God who supports, the God whom Archangel Michael represents before our battles, is a God of care, of presence, of protection. It is a God who is closer to you than your own breath. And recognizing this does not fill you with dread, it fills you with peace. Notice how you are feeling now, at this exact moment, in comparison to the beginning of this video. Perhaps that weight you were carrying back at the beginning is already a little lighter. Perhaps you are breathing a little deeper. Perhaps a discreet tear has appeared, and that is okay because sometimes the soul needs to cry to find relief. This that you are feeling is your faith starting to breathe again. It is your heart remembering that it was not made to live in fear, but in trust. And I want to encourage you to carry this feeling into your day. Do not let it get lost as soon as the video ends. Keep it. Return to it whenever weariness hits. Remember that you are supported, that there is purpose in your walk, and that the courage you need already lives within you, waiting only to be awakened. Think of everything you have already gone through in life, all the difficult nights that seemed to have no end, and yet the sun rose again, all the crises that seemed like they were going to destroy you, and yet you are here, standing, still fighting, still believing, still seeking something better. This is not weakness. This is immense strength. Your story is proof that you are more resilient than you imagine, and that you have never been truly alone on this walk. Perhaps from today on you will start to look for the small signs of care that appear in your life. The right word from someone at the exact right time. The door that closes and the other that opens. The strength that appears out of nowhere when you thought you wouldn't hold on. The peace that descends upon you when you decide to surrender instead of carry. None of this needs to be dramatic or supernatural. Sometimes support manifests itself in the simplest and quietest things of daily life. And if you feel deep down that you need clearer direction, a practical path to rebuild this trust in your daily life, that is exactly why the material I mentioned exists. Not as a miraculous solution, but as a friendly hand, a companion guide for the days when faith needs a little push. It is waiting for you in the description and at the top of the comments, whenever you feel ready. And there is one last reflection I want to plant in your heart before we say goodbye, because it has to do with something bigger than you alone. When you rekindle your faith, when you trade fear for trust, you do not change only your own life. You become a reference for those around you. Your children observe you. Your grandchildren observe you. The people who live with you feel the energy you carry. And when you start to live from peace, you teach, without saying a word, that it is possible to go through difficulties without breaking. You become a beacon for those who are still lost in the storm. Think of the most serene people you have ever known in your life. Perhaps a grandmother, a grandfather, someone of firm faith who faced losses, illnesses, scarcity, and yet maintained on their face a peace that seemed to come from another place. These people did not have easy lives. On the contrary, they often had very hard lives. But they had discovered the secret of not letting circumstances steal their inner peace. And what they left for us was not money. It was not assets. It was something much more valuable. The example of a faith that does not give up. This is the most precious legacy anyone can leave. And you are building your legacy now, today, in the way you choose to go through your days. I invite you to think about this when weariness comes. When the desire to give up appears, remember that your firmness is planting hope in someone who observes you. Perhaps a child who needs to learn that it is worth continuing. Perhaps a friend who is about to give up and who finds strength upon seeing you standing. Perhaps yourself a few years from now, looking back with gratitude for not having given up on that very difficult day. Your persistence in faith is never in vain. It echoes far beyond what your eyes can see. And know that cultivating this faith does not need to be a solitary journey. There is enormous strength in walking accompanied, in knowing that other people are seeking the same peace that you seek, facing struggles similar to yours, choosing trust in place of fear. When we gather around something good, around hope, faith, mutual care, our strength multiplies. Therefore, do not be ashamed to seek support, whether in a community of faith, in loved ones, or in materials that feed you spiritually. No one was made to walk completely alone. Before we say goodbye, I want to leave you with a simple and sincere invitation. If this message touched your heart in any way, if it brought a little peace, hope, or relief to your day, leave an amen down below. Not as an obligation, but as a gesture of acceptance of the peace you are choosing to cultivate. And if you want to continue receiving messages like this, messages of faith, comfort, and strengthening, subscribe to the channel and turn on the notifications so that we can continue walking together on this journey of reunion with hope. I believe deeply that you arrived here today because your heart was ready to hear this. It does not matter the size of your problems. It does not matter how long you have been tired. It does not matter how many times you have thought about giving up. There is still hope for you. There is still peace available for you, and there is still a loving strength walking by your side, closer than you imagine. May you allow yourself to trust again from today on. May you trade the desperate struggle for serene surrender. May you plant peace in your nights and harvest trust in your days. And may, amidst everything you face, you never forget who you really are. Someone loved, someone supported, someone with purpose. May the peace from above rest upon you and upon your entire home. And may this faith that you are rekindling today remain lit, firm, and alive within you, today and in all the days of your life. Amen.